The Silent Invasion. Director Naomi Harrison stood at her office window in the Terran Defense Initiative headquarters, watching the sunset paint the Rocky Mountains in brilliant orange. The same view she'd admired for 15 years now held a different weight. On her desk, a quantum-encrypted tablet displayed the evidence her teams had spent months collecting. Proof that humanity wasn't alone, and hadn't been for quite some time. "How many did we find?" asked Admiral James Reeves, his holographic form flickering slightly as he paced the room. 347 monitoring devices, Naomi replied, turning from the window. All perfectly disguised as natural formations. The oldest dates back at least 50 years. The Admiral's projection stopped pacing. And they have no idea we've detected them. None. As far as the Centauri Collective is concerned, we're still fumbling with basic fusion drives and primitive AI. A slight smile crossed Naomi's face. Their latest report actually congratulated themselves on how well they've contained our development. "Their arrogance is our advantage," commented Dr. Raj Patel, the third person in the room, or rather, his quantum-projected presence. The head of Earth's Advanced Technology Division appeared to be sitting in a comfortable chair, though he was actually in his lab 20 kilometers beneath the Indian Ocean. While they've been watching our carefully orchestrated show of primitive technology, we've been watching them back. Naomi picked up the tablet, scrolling through pages of analyzed alien communications. The collective believes they're preparing to offer us the standard choice: submit to their guidance or face consequences. But their internal communications suggest something more concerning. They're not planning to give us a real choice, Raj concluded. They've already decided Earth would make an excellent example to other emerging civilizations. James's hologram flickered with his agitation. How long until they make their move? Based on their communication patterns, 3 months at most. They're already positioning their fleet under the guise of routine patrols. Naomi set down the tablet. But they don't know about Project Avalon. The name hung in the air like a promise or a threat. For 15 years, while aliens watched humanity's apparent struggles with basic spaceflight, Earth had been preparing. The quantum web that now spanned the solar system, the consciousness transfer technology that made death optional, the reality editing fields that could rewrite the laws of physics within their range, all hidden behind a veil of carefully maintained technological theater. The Avalon platforms are ready, Raj confirmed. We can deploy the full network in under 6 hours. The real question is, do we wait for them to make the first move, or do we show our hand now? Naomi walked to her desk, picking up an old coin, a family heirloom from centuries ago. We've detected 12 other civilizations under their boot. Some enslaved outright, others trapped in technological stasis, all prevented from reaching their true potential. She flipped the coin, watching it catch the last rays of sunlight. "I say we stop playing defense." "Agreed," James said, "but we need to be surgical about this. If we reveal too much too quickly, we risk pushing them into desperate action. Some of their weapons, while primitive compared to Avalon, could still cause significant damage." "What about the Liberation Protocol?" Raj suggested. "We've run the simulations countless times, a staged revelation, starting with their outer monitoring posts. Let them slowly realize just how completely we've compromised their systems." Naomi caught the coin and set it down decisively. "Begin implementation. I want Avalon platforms in position within 48 hours. James, have the fleet ready but maintain current cover protocols. Raj, activate the quantum infiltration teams." As her colleagues' projections flickered out, Naomi turned back to the window. The sun had set, stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, the Centauri Collective thought they were watching a young, naive species about to learn its place in the galaxy. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Through quantum channels invisible to collective monitoring, orders began flowing. Throughout the solar system, advanced technologies hidden in plain sight hummed to life. In bases beneath Earth's oceans and inside hollow asteroids, ships that could reshape reality itself prepared for launch. Humanity had spent 50 years pretending to be less than they were. Now it was time to show the galaxy exactly what they'd become while no one was watching. The game was about to change, and Earth was dealing the cards. Breaking protocol. The Centauri Collective's monitoring station on Europa's surface appeared, to any conventional scan, to be nothing more than an irregular ice formation. For 50 years, it had dutifully reported on human activities in the outer solar system, its quantum transmitters hidden beneath layers of frozen water. Lieutenant Samira Patel stood before the structure, her environment suit's advanced camouflage rendering her virtually invisible. Not that anyone was watching. The Collective's automated systems had been fed a loop of normal readings for the past 6 hours. Contact in 3 minutes, her neural link whispered, synchronized with the quantum network. Around the solar system, 50 other teams were in similar positions, ready to execute the first phase of Liberation Protocol. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than disable the monitoring stations, they would reprogram them, turning the Collective's own surveillance network against them. Each station would continue to transmit, but now through Earth's quantum web, feeding the Collective exactly what humanity wanted them to see. Samira placed her hand against the ice, and nanobots flowed from her suit's systems, burrowing through the frozen surface. Within seconds, they reached the alien technology beneath, integrating with its systems. In her mind's eye, through the neural link, she could see the station's code, elegant but fundamentally flawed. The Collective had never considered the possibility that someone might directly interface with their technology. Why would they? As far as they knew, humanity was barely capable of basic neural interfaces. Station 7 Alpha, ready for integration, she subvocalized. Acknowledged, came the response from Quantum Command. Synchronizing with other teams. Integration in 5, 4, 3. Samira felt the moment. The station's systems merged with Earth's quantum web. The alien code resisted briefly, then yielded to the superior technology. Access granted. Full control achieved. A smile crossed her face as she began the next phase, carefully modifying the station's historical records. When the Collective next reviewed their monitoring data, they would find subtle discrepancies. Nothing obvious at first, just enough to make them question their assumptions. All teams report successful integration. Quantum Command announced. Phase 1 complete. Begin withdrawal. As Samira prepared to leave, her neural link pinged with a priority alert. Something was approaching Europa. A Collective survey ship, well ahead of schedule. Command, we have unexpected company, she reported, her mind already calculating options. Collective vessel on approach. Estimate visual range in 6 minutes. Hold position, came the response. This might be an opportunity. Through her neural link, Samira could sense the quantum web humming with increased activity. In orbit around Earth, the Avalon platforms shifted slightly, their reality-altering fields extending their reach. Lieutenant Patel, Director Harrison's voice joined the quantum channel. How would you like to give our friends a little demonstration? The plan flowed into Samira's mind through the neural link. Bold. Dangerous. Perfect. Ready to proceed, Director. The Collective ship emerged from superluminal travel, its sensors immediately beginning their standard sweep of Europa's surface. They would find exactly what humanity wanted them to find. First, their scans would show nothing unusual, just ice and silence. Then, gradually, their instruments would detect anomalies, quantum fluctuations that shouldn't exist, energy patterns that defy their understanding of physics. By the time they realized something was wrong, it would be too late. Samira felt the Avalon field encompass her position. Reality itself seemed to shiver, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The ice around her began to glow with patterns of light that spoke of technology far beyond the Collective's comprehension. The alien ship's sensors would be going crazy now, trying to process what they were seeing. And then, for just a moment, their screens would show them the truth. A human figure standing on Europa's surface, without any visible life support technology, waving at them. By the time they processed this impossible image, Samira would be gone. The ice returned to normal, leaving them to wonder if they had imagined it all. But the seed of doubt would be planted. "Show's over," she sub-vocalized, and reality rippled again. The Avalon field collapsed, taking her with it, quantum tunneling her back to the secure facility beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. She materialized in the debriefing chamber, her suit dissolving into its component nanites. Director Harrison was waiting, a rare smile on her face. "Well done, Lieutenant. Our friends up there are currently having what I believe they call a reality crisis. Their preliminary report to the collective just went out, full of delightful confusion and uncertainty. Do you think they'll understand the message?" Samira asked, accepting a cup of real coffee, a luxury after 6 hours in the suit. "Oh, they will," Harrison replied. "The question is whether they'll accept what it means. The collective has built their entire civilization on the assumption of their technological superiority. We're not just challenging their dominance, we're threatening their worldview." Samira sipped her coffee, considering this. "What's our next move?" "Now," Harrison said, her smile taking on a predatory edge, "we wait for them to make theirs. They can either accept that they're not the most advanced civilization in this sector of space, or they can try to prove their superiority. And if they choose confrontation, then they'll learn why humanity spent 50 years pretending to be less than we are. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make sure your opponent never sees your true strength until it's too late." Throughout the solar system, the modified monitoring stations continued their work, now serving Earth's purposes. And in deep space, a very confused collective survey ship crew tried to explain to their superiors how they had seen something that simply couldn't exist. The game was changing, and the next move belonged to the collective. The quantum gambit. The collected's High Council chamber was in chaos. Councillor Vexterra's bioluminescent patterns flashed with agitation as she reviewed the latest reports from the Sol system. Around her, the other council members exhibited their own species' signs of distress. "Impossible," she declared, her translator rendering her harmonic vibrations into standard galactic speech. "Their civilization was thoroughly contained. Our monitoring network has been compromised," interrupted Councillor Zinn, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. "The humans didn't just detect our surveillance. They'd been feeding us exactly what they wanted us to see, for years." The chamber's quantum displays showed evidence that was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The supposedly primitive human vessels had started appearing and disappearing at will. Their crude fusion drives were suddenly revealing themselves to be something far more sophisticated. And most disturbing of all, the humans were demonstrating technology that shouldn't exist, not at their development level. Not at any development level. Back on Earth, Director Harrison watched the Council's reaction through their own compromised security systems. Dr. Raj Patel's hologram appeared beside her, his expression thoughtful. "They're responding exactly as predicted," he noted. "Their entire power structure is based on technological superiority. The very idea that they've been deceived is causing their leadership structure to fracture." "Good," Harrison replied. "Deploy Phase 3. Throughout human space, hidden quantum processors activated. The Avalon platforms, previously operating at minimal power, began their true work. Reality itself seemed to shiver as humanity's full technological capabilities came online. In the council chamber, alarms began blaring. The quantum displays showed impossible readings. Human ships appearing simultaneously at every major collective military installation. But they weren't attacking. They were simply waiting. "This is Admiral James Reeves of the Terran Defense Force." The transmission cut through every collective communication channel, impossible to block or ignore. "We've been watching you for a long time. Your subjugation of emerging civilizations ends today." Councillor Vexterra's bioluminescence paled. "Engage planetary defenses. Launch the fleet." But nothing happened. Their supposedly unbreakable quantum control systems responded with a simple message: access denied. Have a nice day. In the depths of Luna Base, Lieutenant Samira Patel led her team in maintaining control of the collective's networks. The alien quantum security was advanced, but it was like bringing a knife to a gunfight when compared to human quantum technology. Their backup systems are attempting to activate, one of her technicians reported. They're trying to route through their emergency protocols. Samira smiled. Let them. I want them to see exactly how thoroughly we've compromised their systems. In orbit around Earth, the Avalon platforms continued their work. Each one contained more computing power than the entire collective network, their quantum fields capable of rewriting the local laws of physics. They weren't weapons. They were something far more profound. Your civilization has spent millennia suppressing others. Admiral Reeves continued his transmission, keeping them dependent, preventing them from reaching their potential. That ends now. In the council chamber, Counselor Zin's crystalline form vibrated with rage. You dare threaten the collective? We have ruled this sector for 10,000 years. We're not threatening you, came Harrison's voice, joining the transmission. We're offering you a choice. The same choice you've offered so many others, but this time with a different option: adapt or become irrelevant. Throughout collective space, their subjugated worlds were receiving transmissions, the truth about their oppressors, and offers of freedom. But more than that, they were being offered something the collective had never given them: genuine partnership. Your empire was built on the assumption that advancement must be controlled, Harrison continued, that younger civilizations must be guided, or oppressed, for their own good. We're proving that assumption wrong. The quantum displays showed more impossible readings. Human technology was spreading through collective space, not destroying their systems but transforming them. Their reality editing fields were upgrading the infrastructure of oppressed worlds, giving them access to technology the collective had denied them for centuries. This is your only warning, Admiral Reeves declared. Continue your current path, and you'll find yourself increasingly unable to maintain control. Choose cooperation, and you'll discover that mutual advancement is far more powerful than subjugation. Dr. Patel's hologram smiled as he monitored the quantum readings. Their military leadership is starting to realize the truth. They're not just outmatched. They're hopelessly obsolete. In the council chamber, the reality of their situation was finally sinking in. The humans hadn't just caught up to them technologically. They'd surpassed them so completely that resistance wasn't just futile, it was meaningless. How? Counselor Vexterra demanded. How did you advance so far without us detecting it? Because you saw what you expected to see, Harrison replied. You were so convinced of your superiority that you never considered we might be letting you think you were in control. Every primitive rocket launch, every clumsy attempt at AI, every seemingly failed experiment, it was all a performance. The Avalon platforms pulsed with energy, their quantum fields extending further. They weren't just demonstrating power, they were offering a glimpse of possibilities, of what could be achieved when civilizations were allowed to reach their full potential. The choice is yours, Harrison concluded, but choose quickly. The galaxy is changing, with or without you. In the council chamber, the leaders of what had been the most powerful civilization in known space faced a reality they had never imagined. They were no longer in control. And somewhere in the vast quantum networks that now spanned their territory, a small subroutine added another smiling emoji to their display screens. Paradigm shift. The next 48 hours reshaped the galaxy more profoundly than the previous 10,000 years of collective rule. Director Harrison stood in the newly established Terran Diplomatic Center, watching real-time holograms of the changes sweeping across known space. The Andromeda Cluster has declared independence, reported Dr. Raj Patel, his hologram materializing beside a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. The collective's grip on their core worlds is crumbling faster than our models predicted. Any violent resistance? Harrison asked, though she already knew the answer. The Avalon platforms had made conventional warfare obsolete. None they could sustain. Admiral Reeves joined the conversation, his projection showing him aboard the flagship Prometheus. Their weapons systems keep experiencing what they're calling unexplained technical difficulties, mostly involving their targeting computers developing a sudden interest in Earth entertainment programs. Harrison allowed herself a small smile. And the subjected worlds. Responding better than expected, Samira Puddle reported, entering the room in person rather than by projection. Her quantum interface team had been working around the clock, ensuring smooth transitions of power across former collective space. The quantum technology packages we're providing are being integrated successfully. Several civilizations are already showing remarkable advances now that the artificial constraints are removed. The holographic display shifted, showing the collective's former capital world. The once mighty towers of their administrative complex now stood remarkably quiet, their quantum systems completely under human control. But unlike the collective, Earth hadn't shut them down or weaponized them. Instead, they'd been repurposed, transformed into centers of learning and cooperation. The Arcturian scientists are particularly impressive, Raj noted, bringing up data streams from one of the newly liberated research centers. Given access to unrestricted quantum computing, they've already made breakthroughs in dimensional physics that even we hadn't considered. That's exactly what we hoped for, Harrison said, watching as another cluster of systems declared their independence from collective control. Different perspectives, different approaches to problems. The collective's mistake wasn't just in suppressing technology, it was in suppressing diversity of thought. A priority alert flashed across their quantum feeds. The remaining collective leadership had finally reached a decision. Harrison nodded to her team. And the transmission was accepted. Counselor Vexterra appeared before them, her bioluminescent patterns significantly dimmer than during their last encounter. She paused, clearly struggling with the words. We wish to discuss terms. Certainly, Harrison replied, keeping her tone professional. Though I should note that these won't be terms of surrender. They'll be terms of transformation. The former collective leader's translator took a moment to process this concept. Explain. Your civilization possesses vast knowledge and experience, Harrison said. We don't want to destroy that. We want to repurpose it. Your administrative networks can be transformed into educational systems. Your control mechanisms can become collaboration tools. And our position in the galaxy will be exactly what you earn through cooperation rather than force. Admiral Reeves interjected. The same as everyone else. The quantum displays showed more changes spreading across the galaxy. The Avalon platforms had begun their second phase, creating a new type of interstellar network. Not a system of control like the collective had built, but a genuine framework for cooperation and advancement. The Centaurian artists have already volunteered to help redesign your capital city, Samira added, pulling up their proposals. They're thinking something less imposing dominion and more shared cultural exchange. Vexterra's bioluminescence flickered in what might have been resignation or possibly hope. And if we refuse, then you'll find yourself increasingly irrelevant, Harrison stated simply. The galaxy is moving forward. You can help shape its new direction, or you can watch from the sidelines. The choice is yours, but the old ways of control and suppression are over. Throughout the former collective space, change continued to ripple outward. The quantum web expanded, linking civilizations that had been kept artificially separated for millennia. Ideas and innovations that had been suppressed for generations finally flowed freely. We're receiving thousands of applications for the new Galactic Science Academy, Raj reported, his hologram's expression brightening, including several from former collective scientists who say they've been sitting on unauthorized research for decades. And the defense fleets? Harrison asked. Most are standing down, Admiral Reeves confirmed, though a few have expressed interest in being repurposed for deep space exploration. Apparently, quite a few of their crews joined up hoping to explore the galaxy, only to end up enforcing collective restrictions instead. In the quantum networks that now span known space, something new was emerging. Not the rigid hierarchy of the collective, but a fluid, dynamic web of cooperation and exchange. Civilizations that had been artificially held back for centuries were finally free to develop at their own pace in their own ways. The holographic displays showed another wave of changes sweeping through former collective space. But these weren't changes being imposed by Earth. They were the natural result of freed civilizations beginning to express themselves and explore their potential. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Samira said softly, watching the transformation unfold. Not perfect, not controlled, but alive and growing. Harrison nodded, observing as another section of the galaxy lit up with new connections and possibilities. "The harder part comes next," she reminded them. "Building something new is easy compared to helping it grow sustainably." But as she watched the former collective worlds beginning to find their own paths, she allowed herself to feel cautiously optimistic. The galaxy was changing, not through force, but through the simple act of letting civilizations choose their own destiny. New dawn. 1 year after the fall of the collective, the former council chamber had been transformed into something unprecedented. The Galactic Cooperation Forum. Gone were the imposing hierarchical platforms and intimidating quantum displays. Instead, the space had been redesigned to encourage genuine dialogue and collaboration. Director Harrison sat at a circular table alongside representatives from 50 different species, including several that had been bitter enemies under collective rule. The quantum interfaces that once enforced control now facilitated universal translation and shared understanding. The Arcturian-Centaurian Joint Research Project has made another breakthrough, Dr. Raj Patel reported, his hologram displaying complex quantum equations. Their combined approach to dimensional physics has opened up entirely new possibilities for sustainable energy generation. And to think, Admiral Reeves commented from his position near the renovated Defense Coordination Center. A year ago, they weren't even allowed to communicate with each other. The changes across the galaxy had exceeded even Earth's most optimistic projections. Without the collective's artificial restrictions, civilizations had begun advancing at their natural pace. But more importantly, they were advancing together, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. The Andromeda Education Exchange Program has expanded again, Samira Patel added, scrolling through reports on her quantum interface. We're seeing unprecedented levels of cultural and scientific collaboration. Species that the collective kept isolated for millennia are discovering they have complementary strengths. Former Counselor Vexterra, now serving as a cultural liaison, entered the chamber. Her bioluminescent patterns showed what humans had learned to recognize as thoughtful contemplation. "I must admit," she said, her translator conveying a tone of wonder, "I never imagined our chamber would become this." The collective believed control brought stability. But this chaos of cooperation has produced more innovation in 1 year than we managed in centuries. The quantum displays showed various projects unfolding across the galaxy. The Avalon platforms, once poised as potential weapons, now served as the backbone of a new type of civilization. They maintained the quantum web that connected distant worlds, but instead of enforcing restrictions, they enabled possibilities. "The latest survey results are in," Harrison announced, bringing up the data for all to see. 97% of former collective worlds report improved quality of life under the new system. Even accounting for margin of error, it's clear the galaxy is thriving. "Not without challenges," Reeves reminded them. "We've had to intervene in 3 potential conflicts this month alone." "True," Harrison acknowledged, "but each was resolved through mediation rather than force. The quantum web makes it harder to maintain the kinds of misunderstandings that lead to war. When civilizations can truly communicate, they usually find better solutions than violence." The chamber's displays shifted to show the former collective capital world. Its once imposing architecture had been softened and repurposed. The central tower, which had symbolized dominance for millennia, now housed the largest public library in known space, its quantum archives open to all. The latest addition to the curriculum, Raj reported with evident satisfaction. Bringing up the new educational programs includes a comprehensive study of how the collective's fall led to the current renaissance. The students are particularly interested in Earth's long-term deception strategy. Speaking of which, Samira interjected, the historical archives have been fully decoded. The collective's own records show they encountered 17 other civilizations that might have achieved similar breakthroughs if they hadn't been suppressed. Earth wasn't unique in our potential. We were just the first to hide it successfully. Harrison stood, walking to the chamber's grand window. The view had been modified to show real-time images from across the galaxy, each scene representing another world finding its own path forward. That was the collective's greatest failure, she said quietly. They saw diversity as a threat to be controlled rather than a strength to be nurtured. They were so focused on maintaining their position at the top that they never imagined what could be achieved through genuine cooperation. The quantum web hummed with activity, carrying innovations, art, and ideas across the stars. Species that had been enemies now worked together, solving problems that neither could have tackled alone. The galaxy had transformed from a carefully controlled hierarchy into a living, breathing network of possibilities. We've received another application for membership in the forum, Vexterra announced, her patterns showing amusement, a young civilization from the Outer Rim. Under the old system, they would have been deemed too primitive to contact for at least another century. Review their application like any other, Harrison instructed. The age of arbitrary restrictions is over. Let them show us what they can contribute. As the day's session concluded, Harrison remained at the window, watching the flow of data and activity across the quantum web. Earth's great deception had given way to something far more powerful than the collective had ever achieved through force. Genuine unity born of freedom and mutual respect. The galaxy wasn't perfect. No living system ever could be, but it was growing, learning, and evolving naturally. The Avalon platforms stood ready to prevent any return to the old ways of dominance and control, but their primary purpose now was to enable rather than restrict. Humanity had hidden their true nature for 50 years, playing a role until the perfect moment to act. But their greatest achievement wasn't in overthrowing the collective, it was in showing the galaxy a better way forward. Not through control, not through force, but through the simple, powerful act of letting civilizations choose their own path while giving them the tools to work together. The new dawn had arrived, and its light shone brighter than anyone could have imagined.